All right, Ms. Swafford, raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
Yes, ma'am.
You can put your hand down. You're before the court on State of Georgia versus Ashley Louise Swafford, 2023 CR 05351 for theft by shoplifting and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Mr. White, what does your client plead to the offenses before the court?
Your Honor, she's pleading guilty to counts 1 and 2, Your Honor.
By entering a plea to counts 1 and 2, a plea of guilty, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And Ms. Swafford, if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things?
Yes, ma'am.
Factual basis and recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On June 28th of 2023, an officer was dispatched to Block Road in Ellenwood, Georgia, in reference to theft. The officer had been advised that a female had run out of the store and got into a pickup. At that time, the officer then reviewed the video footage from the location and observed what was determined to be Ms. Ashley Swafford and her daughter at the self-checkout, swiping items, but multiple items at the same time. So skip scanning, but did not observe the daughter doing any of those things. Only the defendant, Ms. Swafford. The officer was able to catch Ms. Swafford, and she was taken into custody.
Okay.
The state is recommending 12 months to serve 30 days. This is a third and lifetime, Your Honor, and so that requires the minimum of 30 days. The balance to be probated for a theft course, 40 hours of community service, and do not return to that location.
And count 2?
My apologies. Count 2 is 12 months probation to run concurrent with count 1.
All right. So, Mr. White, anything on behalf of Ms. Swafford?
Your Honor, the only thing I want to put on the record is that I did talk with Ms. Swafford about the fact that due to the fact that this is her third theft by shoplifting, that a fourth will turn into a felony, Your Honor.
Ms. Swafford, what's going on in your life, ma'am, that you keep risking jail to steal?
I guess just in need of things, and I just didn't have the money to pay for it.
Okay, are you not working?
I just didn't have enough money that day.
How old is your daughter?
She's 16.
Okay, so ma'am, you're teaching your daughter to do what you're doing. And so she's gonna end up in the same jumpsuit you wearing right now. I mean, there are assistance agencies out here, churches, places where people will help you and help you try and get back on your feet. But stealing, especially and doing it in front of your daughter and teaching her, let me just tell you, Walmart didn't get to be the biggest corporation in the world by not being smart enough to catch somebody skip scanning. They're looking at you while you skip scanning. I mean, for real? They invented the machines. So if they invented the machines, they're gonna make them so that they'll know if somebody's not using them properly. That's just dumb. I get being in need. I get that. So don't think that I'm making it about you being in need. I'm making it about you, one, stealing, and this is your third time in life. At some point, you got to get up off your knees and stand up on your 2 feet and find a job Find 2 or 3 jobs if that's what it takes. But you're teaching your daughter to be dependent upon a life of crime. And what happens to her when you go to jail on a felony for shoplifting? What happens to your daughter? So you got some choices to make, ma'am, but it is not fair for you to turn your daughter into a criminal because you're not making good choices. All right, so I'm going to accept your pleas of guilty to counts 1 and 2. I'll sentence you to 12 months to serve 30 days. Balance will be probated for you to take an anti-theft course, for you to do 40 hours of community service, and you're not to go back to 2940 Anvil Block Road, which is the Walmart. And you're not to go, in fact, you're not to go to any Walmart in Clinton County. For the next 12 months, no Walmart in Clinton County. Count 2 will be 12 months probation to serve concurrent. And I'm going to put you in a breakout room with Mr. Carmichael. He's going to explain everything you need to know about probation. Once you finish speaking with him, you can go back with the sheriff's office. Do you understand?
Ma'am, thank you.
I'm sorry. Oh, Mr. Carmichael's in the courtroom. Won't he do it? Thanks, Mr. Carmichael. So Mr. Carmichael's going to speak to you and I can keep going with my hearing.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, go speak to Mr. Carmichael. All right, next is Burke, Isaac. Mr. Burke, raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can put your hand down. Mr. Burke, you were before this court for driving under the influence and following too close on the 5th day of June, 2023. You are represented by the law firm of Lister and Holt. Mr. White is with you in this petition. You have 10 days and 10 months and 10 days remaining on probation, and says that you failed to avoid injurious and vicious habits because you tested positive for alcohol on June 12th, 2023. Now, Mr. Burke, you were before me on June 5th. You tested positive on June 12th. Did nothing I say on June 5th ring a bell about not drinking? And please don't tell me, because I've been doing this a little while and I've talked to Mr. Turner and all the people at probation who explained to me how the testing works. Don't tell me that it was residual from June 5th and before that, okay? Just don't tell me that. Just don't lie to me. All right, so Mr. White, what's going on with Mr. Burke?
Your Honor, I did talk with Mr. Burke. Honestly, I'm not sure. Mr. Burke was not sure himself about what happened. So unfortunately, I'm not sure, Your Honor.
Mr. Burke, I know what I say to people who commit a DUI. And what this shows me is clearly you have an alcohol addiction. Because if you're willing to risk going back to jail because you can't stay away from alcohol for 7 days, it's a problem. Talk to me, Mr. Burke.
Well, ma'am, I didn't really have no problem.
Mr. Burke, stop right there. Mr. Burke, Mr. Burke, stop right there. See, because you're lying to me and you. Because first of all, alcohol has ended up with you being in front of a judge at least twice. I'm just going to say twice. I don't know your history. It could be more. But if alcohol ends you up in front of a judge, if your connection with alcohol ends you up in front of a judge, you got a problem with alcohol. You're on probation. And one of the things I say to you on probation is no alcohol or illicit drugs during the course of your probation. You're subject to random screens for alcohol and drugs. So I say that. And the reason it rolls off my tongue is because I say it every time. But you couldn't wait 7 days before you took another drink and you tested positive again, but you're going to stand there and tell me you don't have a problem with alcohol. That's why we keep doing this, because you got a problem with alcohol and you don't want to admit it.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, don't just yes, ma'am me,
No,
but think about
okay, I had a glass of wine with my wife. I don't drink alcohol. I did have a glass of wine with my wife, but that's all I did was a glass of wine.
that's alcohol, sir.
Yes, ma'am. It is.
And No alcohol.
Yes, ma'am.
You could have had a Sprite. Could have had water. But you chose a glass of wine, and then you're gonna tell me I don't drink alcohol. I just had a glass of wine. So
Well-
wine's not alcohol.
Yes, it is alcohol, ma'am.
Mr. Burke, stop lying to yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
7 days. You know, there are judges who put you in jail 6 months straight off the bat for a DUI. I gave you probation. Straight off the bat, you're gonna do 6 months in jail for a DUI. You got probation and then messed it up. You couldn't wait 7 days before you messed it up. What's the recommendation, Mr. Austin?
Your Honor, he has been in custody now since July 17th. Credit for time served, returned back to probation. He will be drug screened every report going forward, and he is to attend a mandatory 2 AA or NA meetings per week.
Mr. Burke, let me just tell you, by the nature of what I do, I expect that somebody who has a problem with alcohol is gonna mess up, at least within the first month or two of probation. It's just inevitable. It happens all the time. That's why Mr. Austin's recommendation is so lenient, in my eyes, lenient, but because we expect that you're gonna mess up, because y'all don't take us seriously. One, you don't take that the random screens are serious. Two, you think that wine is not alcohol, so it's not gonna show up. I'm gonna just have a little glass of wine and it's gonna be okay. But now that you know that we pick up everything, you're gonna get another chance. You're gonna get credit for time served. You're gonna go back on probation. You're gonna have additional conditions. But please, please, please understand that these conditions, the AA meetings, it's not a punishment. It's because you need it.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you were willing to risk your liberty just to have a quote unquote glass of wine, which I'm telling you, I don't really believe that. But I think it was probably more than that. But you really, want me to think that that's what happened. So I'm gonna go with it. But I just say it's not a good idea to lie to yourself. Because that's when you start repeating this kind of behavior. So I'm going to give you credit for time served. You're going to return to probation and continue with all of the conditions of probation. We're going to add that you're going to test at every report. So every time we report, you're going to have to give a sample. And you're also going to attend 2 AA or NA meetings per week. And you're going to show proof of having attended 2 AA or NA meetings per week. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I just say, Mr. Burke, don't lie to yourself. Because you're going to keep messing up if you don't acknowledge that there's an issue here.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I get all of the conditions, Mr. Austin?
You did, Your Honor. And I just asked, can Mr. Burke report on Monday at 09?
All right, Monday, 9 a.m., Mr. Burke, you're going to be in the probation office talking to Mr. Austin. Do not be late. You understand?
Yes, ma'am. Could I ask him something, please, ma'am?
You may.
Could it be 10 a.m.? I'll be off of work. I could make it there because I'm gonna have to go to work. And I get off at 9, but I could be there at around 10.
That's no problem, Mr. Burke.
Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Burke, you also remember you risk your job every time you got to come before me, because if I give you the remainder of this time in jail, then your job is going to go away. So please be mindful of that, sir. Don't risk all of that. Get some help. Take advantage of the help we're offering you. All right, so you'll return to probation with credit for time served. You'll complete all of the conditions of probation. You're going to test at each report and attend 2 AA and NA meetings per week, and please show proof of having attended those meetings. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. You can go back with the sheriff's office. Oh, Mr. Davis, raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true?
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Davis, hold on. Mr. Davis, you're here for a petition for revocation of probation, State of Georgia versus Marcus Davis. You're represented by Mr. Justin Goodman, and he is present. You were before this court for reckless driving on the 14th day of June, 2023, and sentenced to 12 months on probation, 10 months and 18 days remaining. You failed to avoid injurious and vicious habits. You tested positive for the metabolites of alcohol on June 23rd of 2023, and you failed to complete a clinical evaluation. You failed to document proof of completing 40 hours of community service, and you failed to pay. Now, Mr. Davis, let me just tell you what happened. You got fortunate where your attorney was able to get you a reckless instead of a DUI. And the first thing you go out and do is celebrate and mess up your probation on a reckless. Mr. Davis, I'm just tell you what I told the previous gentleman. You have a problem with alcohol. And if you don't acknowledge it, you're going to end up killing yourself or killing somebody or spending the rest of your life in jail. Because you've shown up twice in front of me. The reckless, that was just the DUI, but they chose not to go to court, go to trial on it. So you got the reckless. But now you're showing me that it should have been a DUI. What's going on with your life that you can't stay away from alcohol for the time period from June 14th to June 23rd, less than 2 weeks?
I don't have nothing going on in my life. Not nothing like that.
Oh, so you just figured I just wouldn't catch you drinking?
No, really. If I had something in my system, it had been long.
No, Mr. Davis, that was 2 weeks. No, sir. No, sir. See, what you're not gonna do, I've been doing this too long. What you're not gonna do is come in here and try and blow smoke in my face.
I ain't trying to do that.
Okay, then, because people who don't acknowledge that they got a problem, they end up back in front of me several times. So every time you lie to yourself, it doesn't really matter if you try and lie to me, but every time you lie to yourself, you're going to end up back here. And you're going to see me because I'm in charge of your case. So now let's run that back. Why is there alcohol in your system on less than 14 days from the time you got a reckless driving conviction?
I really don't have an answer for that.
Okay, that's probably a good idea that you not answer, but I hope you think about it because that dictates whether you're going to spend a longer time in jail the next time you come before me for having alcohol in your system. Let's see what Ms. Chang's recommendation is.
Your Honor, probation recommends that 7 days be revoked. Credit for time served since his arrest on July 18th. Return to probation under the same conditions. To complete a clinical evaluation by August the 15th. And provide proof of community service also by August 15th. He provided a letter that's not on letterhead, it's not dated, so I could not verify the community service. And also to drug screen each report, Your Honor.
I'm gonna add 2 AA meetings or NA meetings per week.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Goodman.
Your Honor, just as indicated, I've spoken with my client about the nature of the testing that's done by probation. how, how it can determine whether or not you've consumed alcohol in the last 80 hours. I've talked to him about the confirmation portion of that that's done through ETS testing. Judge, my client and I did have a conversation about substances in his house that he may have put in his body that could potentially have caused this positive screen. I've let him know, Your Honor, that he is essentially held to the same standard as a professional athlete while he's on probation. Every single thing he puts in his body, whether it's cold medicine or mouthwash or whatever it is, if it contains alcohol, and even if he did not intentionally consume alcohol, that it doesn't matter, that he is strictly responsible for that, and that he has to know everything that he's putting in his body while he's on probation. Judge, I would ask that you accept the recommendation. My hope is, and I'm going to continue the conversation with Mr. Davis once he's released, and hope that he does not come before the court any additional times.
So, Mr. Davis, Mr. Goodman is a great lawyer. I don't have anything to say against his representation, but I'm gonna just say, if you're gonna keep drinking and coming back before me, you're gonna waste a lot of money on hiring Mr. Goodman. I'm just saying. But there's only so much he can do. Because if you keep putting yourself in jeopardy by drinking, Mr. Goodman's talking about all kinds of other substances that could have been mouthwash, NyQuil, all of that. But let's be real. If you continue to drink, you're just going to be wasting money on his representation when he could be helping somebody else who actually wants to stay out of jail. All right. So now that we understand each other.
Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Your Honor. With regard to the clinical evaluation, Mr. Davis, on his first report, said that he had already completed that prior to his sentence.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't provided proof of that, but being that he has tested positive after he was sentenced, we do request that he complete another clinical evaluation.
All right. So
with your permission, Your Honor, with your permission on that regard, could he potentially go back to the original evaluator, report this positive test and any additional use, and update them since the time that this occurred, and potentially have them amend the existing recommendation in a way that includes everything that's happened to this point? I know that a lot of the evaluators will be willing to do that, so you don't have to start from scratch in terms of payment.
Ms. Chang, do you object to that in any way?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Goodman. Mr. Davis, I'm going to accept your stipulation to the technical violations. I will revoke 7 days. I'll give you credit since the date of lockup. You're going to return to probation. You're going to screen for alcohol and illicit drugs at each report. You're going to update your clinical evaluation by August 15th. You're going to turn in your hours for probation, community service. You're going to get those hours on letterhead from a documented 501c3 agency, and you're going to turn those in by August 15th, and you'll attend 2 AA or NA meetings per week and show proof of attending those meetings. Do you have any questions, Mr. Burke?
No.
All right, so Mr. Burke, let's not play games. So what I'm telling you is we are watching. What I'm telling you is I am serious. And what I'm telling you is that I'm very distrustful when it comes to people who are willing to lie to themselves. If you're willing to lie to yourself, you're willing to lie to me. And so I'm going to be very skeptical about anything that you tell me if you come back before me. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. All
Your
right.
Honor.
Yes.
Excuse me, Your Honor. For his next appointment, for him to report tomorrow, July 26th at 1:30 to our office.
Did you get that, Mr. Burke?
Is Mr. Davis?
I'm sorry, Mr. Davis. I keep saying Mr. Burke. I'm sorry, Mr. Davis. Did you get that?
Can I report earlier than that? Cause, I have to go to work. I mean, can I report early, like in the morning? time?
9 a.m.
Is that fine? Is that the earliest I can report?
Yes.
And what's the latest I can? report? 'Cause
3 o'clock.
I guess I'll try to get off work early tomorrow.
Okay. All right, you can go back with the sheriff's office.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
That completes.